Thousands of owners are staring down $11,000 engine failures and class action lawsuits. In 2022, a leaked internal memo warned some engines can seize with zero warning, and a whistleblower claims the real fix is not a recall. It's telling you to use thicker oil and hope for the best. As nearly 750,000 vehicles face recalls, and drivers pay the price, what else hasn't GM told you about their G8 engine disaster? The gap between marketing and reality is wider than ever, and the stakes start now. GM pours millions into ads promising their trucks are the most dependable. Glossy commercials, trophy cabinets, and a steady stream of awards from names like J.D. Power. The average viewer is hit with the message at every turn. Silverado, Tahoe, Sierra, America's workhorses, supposedly built to outlast the competition. On paper, it all looks bulletproof. The 2025 Chevy Silverado even flashes its loyalty badge with a J.D. Power award as America's most dependable full-size pickup. But scratch beneath the surface, and the numbers start to blur. That 8.5 out of 10 reliability rating? It sounds official, but try to find it in GM's own paperwork. It doesn't exist. Instead, the real metric is problems per 100 vehicles. For 2025, Chevy touts a 174 pp 100 score. Lower is better, but it's just a number in a long list of rankings. Awards are handed out by segment, so a truck can be best in a weak field and still win the title. It's like being crowned king when everyone else is limping off the field. When GM isn't waving trophies, they lean on vague slogans. Find new roads. Excellence for all. Most dependable, longest lasting. These catchphrases echo through showrooms, but they never mention the fine print, which model, which year, or whether the badge covers the V8 under the hood that could leave you stranded. In 2019, Chevy even pulled an ad claiming better reliability than Toyota and Ford, after networks called out their survey tricks. The data behind the slogan was a commissioned Ipsos study from 2015, hardly the gold standard pressed into those shiny commercials. J.D. Power's methodology itself is a black box. Their scores ride on owner surveys and warranty claims, not on teardown reports or engine lab tests. So a software glitch or a faulty seat latch weighs as much as catastrophic engine failure when it comes to scoring. Meanwhile, real-world problems, like $11,000 engine replacements or class action lawsuits, never make it into those smiling family commercials. The marketing blitz is relentless, but the reality for owners with ticking V8s is anything but dependable. While GM's marketing department counts trophies, drivers scroll endless forums for advice on oil changes and early warning signs. Behind the curtain, most dependable is just a phrase. The real question, will that reliability badge outlast the engine it's stuck on? It did not take a blown motor or a warning light for the real story to hit the courtroom. The defect in GM's 5.3-liter V8, engineered with active fuel management to sip fuel, left owners burning oil at a rate no pickup should ever see. Between 2011 and 2014, thousands of drivers noticed their trucks guzzling a quart every 1,000 miles. Mechanics pointed to fouled spark plugs, carbon-caked pistons, stalling on the highway. Yet GM stuck to the script. That's normal. But for 38,000 owners in California, Idaho, and North Carolina, patience ran dry. They took GM to trial in a class action that would poke holes in every dependability claim on the Colorado airwaves. In a federal courtroom, jurors sat through emails, internal documents, and the kind of engineering admissions you never hear at a dealership. GM engineers had flagged the oil consumption defect years before, linking it to the piston ring design and active fuel management's oil spray. They even weighed a real fix. GM chose a cheaper, less effective cleaning process, hoping most engines would last through warranty. That gamble backfired. The Sequeiros verdict in October 2022 was not just a slap on the wrist. The jury sided with owners, awarding $2,700 per affected vehicle, up to $100 million in damages. The math was simple. The trucks did not do what they promised, and fixing them cost real money. Plaintiffs described losing trust in vehicles bought for work, safety, or family. One man said he stopped using his Silverado for road trips. He could not risk a breakdown far from home. Another owner recounted $6,000 in repairs after engine stalling when the oil level bottomed out, all on a factory-tuned truck that had never missed an oil change. GM pushed back, insisting the oil consumption was within industry norms. But class attorneys unearthed internal memos showing the company knew this was not true. At the center of the case, the oil monitoring system, which did not actually measure oil level, just calculated by algorithm. By the time the dash warning lit up, the engine was already toast. The jury did not buy GM's defense. The verdict shattered the most dependable image and set a legal precedent for the thousands still fighting over blown 5.3 liters and warranty exclusions. While the lawsuit made headlines, what it really exposed was a pattern: glossy slogans in the showroom, lawsuits and repair bills in the real world. Marketing promised peace of mind. The Sequeiros class action delivered a dose of reality and a warning to anyone who thought a trophy in a commercial meant trouble-free miles. Inside GM, one anonymous engineer watched the numbers pile up. Field reports of sudden engine seizures, no warning, engines dying at highway speeds. None of it made it into the brochures. In 2022, a confidential memo moved through GM's powertrain division. The language was blunt: no warning before seizure. That meant exactly what it sounded like. Drivers could be cruising at 65, then lose all power in an instant. The memo traced the risk to a batch of crankshafts and connecting rods manufactured between March 2021 and May 2024. The surface finish, the tolerances, the debris left behind from machining, all of it turned the 6.2-liter V8 into a gamble, one that could go bad with zero notice. The engineer pressed for a recall. Instead, the fix on the table was simple: switch to a thicker oil, slap a new sticker on the fill cap, and hope the engines made it past warranty. But when internal warnings started making their way outside the company, things got tense. Career prospects vanished overnight. Supervisors pulled the engineer off key projects, locked down computer access, reassigned them to a windowless office. Classic corporate exile. Senior staff started calling them a problem, more concerned with leaks than the engines themselves. One colleague quietly warned, "You're making enemies upstairs." The memo never went public, but pieces of it surfaced in class action discovery. Phrases like bearing failure can lead to sudden loss of propulsion, and no pre-seizure diagnostic event landed in court files. Lawyers grilled executives about the decision to delay a full recall, and why service bulletins glossed over the fact that some of these engines could just quit, out of nowhere. In depositions, GM management stuck to the script: proactive, best available remedy, customer satisfaction, while the paper trail told a different story. The engineer's silence was bought at the cost of a career. But the memo's existence pulled back the curtain, setting up a showdown between internal warnings and public spin. For owners, the message was chilling. If the people building these trucks were raising red flags and getting shut down, what else was hiding underneath those most dependable badges? Next came the technical deep dive: how a few thousandths of an inch in a bearing could decide if your $70,000 SUV made it home or left you stranded on the side of the freeway. The heart of the problem beats in a place General Motors rarely puts on camera: the St. Catharines engine plant in Ontario. That's where thousands of 5.3 and 6.2-liter V8s, meant for Silverado, Sierra, Escalade, and Tahoe, took shape between 2021 and 2024. But instead of legendary durability, these engines went out into the world with a silent flaw buried deep inside. Here's how it happens: precision crankshafts and connecting rods meant to be separated by a microscopic oil film rolled off the line with surface finishes that were off by a few thousandths of an inch. That might sound trivial, but in modern engines, tolerances are everything. When the crank or rod journal is too rough or too large, the oil film that normally floats the bearings can't hold. The result? Direct metal-on-metal contact, microscopic debris, and heat, slowly destroying the bearing until it spins or seizes. The numbers back up the crisis. General Motors was forced to recall 721,000 vehicles for this exact issue, one of the biggest single-engine recalls in American history. It wasn't just a few unlucky owners. Service bulletins flagged entire production shifts. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration opened its own probe after 39 official complaints and thousands of field failures pointing straight back to St. Catharines. Mechanics started seeing engines with less than 10,000 miles torn down for catastrophic bearing collapse, metal in the oil pan, or connecting rods welded to the crank. Owners never saw it coming. There's no warning light, no strange noise until it's too late. The original oil spec, 0W20, was designed for efficiency, not for paper-thin margins of error on unfinished metal. Once the oil film breaks down, the engine can go from healthy to seized in seconds. General Motors engineers flagged these exact tolerances in internal memos: bore finish specs, polished grit, oil clearance measurements. But as engines kept failing, the company looked for a fix that didn't involve shutting the plant or recalling every block. That meant living with the defect and hoping a change in oil could mask a machining crisis. This isn't just a story about paperwork, it's about thousands of trucks and SUVs rolling off the line with a built-in time bomb, all because a machine skipped a polishing step or quality control missed a measurement. Every time one of those bearings wears through, the real cost isn't just a blown engine. It's a stain on every most dependable badge General Motors puts on a grill. General Motors' answer to catastrophic V8 failures reads like a memo from the parts counter. Swap your 0W20 for 0W40 and hope for the best. That's the new marching order. Thicker oil, new cap, and a line in the owner's manual. On paper, it's a simple fix. In the real world, it's the automotive version of painting over a cracked foundation. Ask any independent mechanic, and you'll get a look that says it all. One shop owner holds up two bottles, the original 0W20, light as water, and the new 0W40, thick enough to cling to the sides of the bottle. Here's the thinking. Thicker oil means a stronger film between the crankshaft and bearings, masking those few thousandths of an inch where the factory got sloppy. It's a last defense when tolerances go sideways, when that invisible layer is the only thing stopping metal from eating itself alive. But the story doesn't end with extra viscosity. There's a catch, and it's right there in the fine print. The 0W20 specification wasn't just about saving pennies on oil, it was General Motors' ticket to better fuel economy numbers, those precious miles per gallon stats that help dodge cafe penalties and look good in the showroom. Thicker oil means more drag inside the engine, more work for the oil pump, and a hit on gas mileage. The switch bumps high temperature, high shear values, so the bearings hang on longer, but the truck doesn't roll quite as far on a gallon. And if you're keeping score, this fix doesn't come with an asterisk in the miles per gallon brochure. Owners just notice the needle dropping faster. Mechanics are quick to point out what General Motors won't say on camera. 0W40 buys time, but it doesn't erase the machining trash still floating in some blocks. It doesn't fix a bad crank, a nicked rod, or missing polish. Engines that passed inspection get a sticker and a new oil recipe, while the unlucky ones get swapped for remanufactured units built after June 2024. The rest are rolling band-aids. Some owners, unconvinced, skip the official advice and pour in 5W30 instead, chasing a middle ground between General Motors' fix and their own peace of mind. But here's the rub. Stray from the sticker and you risk a denied warranty. Stick to the script and you're gambling that a thicker oil film will cover for a bearing that never should have left the plant. For a few, it works. For others, the engine still seizes, just a bit later, and maybe not until the warranty clock runs out. Meanwhile, the forums light up with debates. Is thicker oil a miracle cure or just a way to delay the inevitable? The data isn't comforting. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration probe notes a marginal drop in catastrophic failures after the viscosity switch, but nothing close to true prevention. The only real winners are owners who dodged the defect window completely, or those who caught the recall in time for a full engine swap. At the end of the day, a thicker oil band-aid holds back disaster for a while. But it doesn't erase sloppy machining, and it can't rebuild trust lost on the highway shoulder. Mechanics shake their heads, knowing that for every fixed engine, two more might be counting down the miles before the bearings cry uncle. And General Motors? They get to say they acted proactively, at least until the next round of complaints starts to build. Owners are left holding the bag when GM's fixes fall short. Take the case of a 2022 GMC Sierra owner whose engine locked up at just 72,000 miles. No warning, no dashboard light, just a dead truck in the middle of the interstate. The repair bill? $11,000 for a replacement engine. That's more than some families clear in a quarter. And this guy isn't alone. Dealer lots have become triage centers for out-of-warranty V8s, some with less than 60,000 miles on the clock. The story plays out over and over. A factory oil change sticker, regular maintenance logged, and then a catastrophic failure that isn't covered because the warranty clock has already run out. Small business owners, especially those running landscaping fleets or towing operations, feel the sting twice. One landscaper watched two Silverados fail within months, sidelining crews at peak season. Weeks went by waiting for parts, and GM's official fix, an oil change and a sticker, did nothing once the bearings had already spun. Each day off the road meant lost contracts, lost pay, and a scramble to rent backup trucks. Dealers offered little more than confusion. Some said swap the engine, others said just run thicker oil and cross your fingers. When factory engines weren't available, owners had to settle for remanufactured blocks, sometimes with their own question marks about quality. Plenty of drivers are learning on the fly how to play engine doctor. Forums are packed with DIY guides, oil analyses, magnetic drain plugs to catch the glitter, even switching to aftermarket oil filters in hopes of catching debris before it trashes the bearings. Some swear by changing oil every 3,000 miles instead of the factory prescribed interval. Others install catch cans to trap blow-by gas and hope it buys them extra time. But these DIY fixes cost money and time, and none guarantee a bulletproof truck. Every breakdown chips away at the trust these trucks were sold on. Drivers who bought the most dependable for peace of mind now keep a jump box and a AAA card in the glove box. It's more than inconvenience. It's losing faith in a tool you counted on to make a living. And every invoice, every homemade fix is a footnote that didn't make it into the glossy award ads or the fine print on the showroom floor. Here is where the story takes a hard left turn, straight to the Corvette factory floor. While GM's truck engines struggle to keep their bearings, literally, the LT2 V8 at the heart of the Corvette glides through every reliability test thrown its way. There's no class action, no recall panic, no desperate oil swaps for this one. The LT2's secret? Forged steel connecting rods. Powder metal forged, not cast, not cut rate. These rods are built to handle the kind of revolutions per minute and abuse that would send lesser engines looking for a tow truck. Over at the Corvette plant, every rod and crank gets the treatment you'd expect in a supercar. S38 alloy cranks, precision finish, manufacturing tolerances measured in microns, not millimeters. The result? 0 reports of high-speed bearing failures, 0 mass recalls for engine seizures, and not a single National Highway Traffic Safety Administration campaign for rod or crank failures. Ever. It's not just paper specs. LT2 engines run dry sump lubrication, triple oil pumps, and a system tuned for full throttle track days. Corvette drivers hammer these engines at redline and roll away ready for another lap. The real-world scoreboard is clear. While Silverado and Sierra owners trade horror stories and $11,000 repair bills, Corvette forums are busy arguing about launch control settings and Michelin tire life. Even the technical service bulletins for the LT2 read like minor footnotes. An occasional plug fouling here, a spark misfire there. Nothing that ends with a flatbed or a court date. This isn't just a case of luck or pampered performance cars. It's a question of priorities. GM's engineering team loaded the LT2 with every trick in the book. Dry sump, forged rods, premium alloys, while the truck team tried to hit a price target and meet corporate average fuel economy numbers with thinner oil and cost-controlled parts. The proof is in the recalls. The LT2 stands alone, a benchmark for what GM can do when corners aren't cut, and a not-so-subtle reminder to every truck owner counting on a most dependable badge to mean what it says. Buying a used General Motors truck these days feels more like walking a minefield than shopping for a workhorse. But there is a way to stack the odds in your favor, if you are willing to get your hands a little dirty and your questions a little uncomfortable. The first move? Run the VIN on the NHTSA recall lookup. It takes 15 seconds to find out if that shiny Silverado or Yukon on the lot is one of the 877,000 under investigation for catastrophic engine failures. Miss the recall window and you could be staring down a busted V8 and a 5-figure repair bill with no safety net. But it does not stop at online searches. Savvy buyers bring their own oil analysis kit or ask for the latest service records, specifically oil change intervals and whether the truck got the factory 0W40 oil after June 2024. Metal shavings on a dipstick, weird noises on cold start, unexplained oil loss, each is a red flag. Mechanics recommend a compression test and, if possible, a borescope peek at the cylinder walls. Sounds obsessive? Not after reading the newest NHTSA probe documents. None of this is paranoia, it is crowdsourced survival. Owner forums have become hotlines for pre-purchase checklists and VIN sharing networks, helping buyers dodge ticking time bombs. Meanwhile, advocacy groups are gaining steam. Petitions on change.org and direct complaints filed with the NHTSA have already pressured General Motors into recalling swaths of slow-failing engines and extending coverage for some models. Every new signature, every posted story chips away at the corporate wall of silence. For those who already own, joining these coalitions makes a difference. Document every oil change, save receipts, and keep a written log of strange engine behavior. If the engine fails, these records can make or break a warranty claim or strengthen your case in the next class action. At the heart of it, buyers and owners are fighting back, with data, with unity, and with the kind of consumer pressure that can turn a recall from rumor into reality. It is not just about fixing trucks. It is about making sure General Motors delivers the dependability it puts on billboards, and giving owners the tools to hold them to their word. In 2022, GM recalled 721,000 trucks and SUVs for engine defects traced to machining flaws at its St. Catharines plant, a decision documented in internal memos and reinforced by a class action verdict that awarded $2,700 to affected owners. Despite decades of most dependable marketing and an 8.5 out of 10 reliability rating, evidence from whistleblowers and court records revealed failures often occurred with no warning, sometimes as early as 72,000 miles. GM's response, mandating a switch from zero W20 to thicker oil, improved protection but reduced fuel efficiency, raising new questions about lasting solutions. To this day, key details about manufacturing oversight and long-term reliability remain undisclosed. While the Corvette LT2 engine saw 0 bearing recalls, over 877,000 truck engines remain under investigation. Owners now rely on recall lookups, independent inspections, and collective action to protect themselves. The record shows, until transparency matches performance, trust in GM's V8 trucks will depend on vigilance, not slogans.